think it was to kill off the homeless population in Skids Row and just clean up the city.
Everything's about population control. Yeah, exactly. And again, that's why I think it's like, why would there be more cameras? So Netflix, the number one show on Netflix, is called Crime Scene: The Vanishing at the Cecil Hotel. Just a little like take. It's a 4-part series. If you go to the top 10, it's number one. It's not hard to find. It is excellent. They put it together really well. Those are my favorite. I'm always looking for these. Because me and my wife, we've watched everything. So especially all the like crime scene ones. But it was put together really well. They had cops, and then they would have like YouTuber people who were really into investigative stuff looking at this. Are you gonna pull up the video? You have the video up.
Yeah, completely.
So the most. So it's a typical. She was at the Cecil Hotel in downtown LA. It's been there since the 20s. There's been like 1,000 deaths in there. It was a big whorehouse, crack house for people in downtown LA. Skid Row is right there. If you don't know what Skid Row, it's like the biggest competency, whatever that word is, or most people in an area homeless in one like square mile area.
Yeah,
so
it's like a homeless city, basically. Yeah.
It's Skid Row. So the bizarre death of Elisa Lam. So long story short, she's at this hotel. Supposedly she's a college student at some school in British Columbia. And she goes to LA, I guess for a couple weeks just to live or something. And ends up staying at this hotel, goes missing. He has this is going to show up right now while I'm talking.
Yeah,
this video.
So
she's ends up being in this hotel by herself. And she starts acting weird through this escalator, to the point where either my take is some people say acid or LSD. To me,
she had bipolar disorder.
Sure.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in a second. I still don't think, unless it said that she was still taking her medicine though, just took less of her medicine. So I'm not to the point where I think she would. So let me just give the summary. So she basically is in this hotel. She ends up dead in a water tank on top of the Cecil Hotel in downtown LA. So the theories are either, of course, when I first saw it, I'm thinking homicide, because how are you in a water tank on top of a roof? Like, who does that other than someone who kills you and puts you up to hide there? And they said at the beginning, they're like, there was like beer bottles and beer cans and cigarette butts. They went up on the roof and people would like hang out there in downtown LA. You could see over LA, whatever. And so it's either homicide. She was big on Tumblr, so she was writing on Tumblr all the time, talked about how she had depression, and so some people thought, well, depression, suicide. Okay, so it's homicide, suicide. The other one was mental illness, because she took all kinds of like antidepressants and
she had bipolar disorder and was taking a bunch of different medications.
Medicine. So, and maybe the one thing the whole bipolar thing is that maybe I'm not. I just think sometimes people get into this rut. They have really down days, and they're like, "I'm depressed." No, just not every day is as good as. Well, the other
bipolar disorder is different than depression.
Right.
I mean, some people do have messed up, brain chemistry.
Right. Right. So anyway, so that she had, so the other thing was she had bipolar disorder, and they said she still took the medicine. She just took less of the medicine. So some people think did some kind of manic episode happen.
Yeah, manic episode.
To the point where she went and jumped in a water tank and killed herself. I still find that hard to believe, but fine. And the other take, which probably most people find, is that the fourth homicide, suicide, just say suicide because of depression. It would be the bipolar thing, lack of medicine. And then the only other one was this MK Ultra thing. So in the documentary, the guy goes, if something happens, it's a coincidence. Maybe if two things happen, it's a coincidence. But when there's 6, 7 synchronicity of things, you start getting weary. Now, I'm sure over the last, I'm more of like that weary thing with the conspiracy theory stuff than most people. So when I start seeing that thing, I'm like, oh, dang. And they go out of the way to say, like, wow, this is some weird stuff. So her name is Elisa Lam. The things that they showed on the documentary, which again, you got to watch the documentary.
Look at her right here with her hands.
Yeah.
Look how creepy this is.
And we haven't even said this part either, right? Yeah.
Look how creepy.
Yeah. We didn't even get into is this spoiler alert?
No. This is just a clip.
It's just a clip. No, the stuff I'm saying?
No, not really.
It don't matter because it's just about.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, spoiler alert.
Okay,
just
spoiler
in case.
alert. Sorry,
yeah,
because again, there's no real answer. They just show you all the different perspectives.
Yeah. We're just talking our theories. You know.
So, and again, this clip is important. The clip that he keeps showing too. She's doing some weird stuff where she's like, looks like she's scared of something, or if she's talking to some like imaginary friend. Some people even thought there was someone outside of it, which I don't think there was. Someone outside the elevator. They ended up finding they're like the big thing at the beginning of the series was like, why is the elevator door open so long? Because it opened for like 2 minutes.
Yeah, but she must have hit the button.
She pressed the open button, and they end up finding out later it holds open for 2 minutes if you press that open button once. So that was like the big thing. They're like, oh, someone outside holding the door open by pressing the button. So we knew that wasn't. Now, the whole CIA implant thing, the synchronicities were a couple things. So there was this movie called Dark Water where it was like a Korean movie from 10 years ago. They show this in the Netflix documentary. She's wearing the same little red jacket with the skirt, and she's in this hotel, and she goes up to the top of the hotel room, climbs up this ladder. This happens in the movie, and this is what they tell us happens in the story too. The real life story with Elisa Lam. She climbs in, jumps in the water tower, and she's found dead in the water tower. Same exact thing as this movie. Now, coincidence? Maybe. Now, the next thing, the whole thing about this show, they're like, we got to see where she was before, like who saw her. The thing that where people saw her was this bookstore across the street from Cecil Hotel called The Last Bookstore. And if you pull up The Last Bookstore's like address or something, they show it on there. I forget exactly. It was like a zip code. If it was like where it was started or something, and the zip code was in British Columbia in Canada, and the zip code pings to her house. So if you put that zip code in, it brings to British Columbia where she lived. So the last bookstore she was supposedly at, you bring the zip code, brings her to where she lives in British Columbia. So that was the second thing. So, and that was the big talking point. Like, these people saw her. She had books there. She couldn't carry the books home. So they had a delivery from the bookstore in a box because they were too heavy. So they brought her the books. And again, the theory was maybe they're too heavy. But when I really started thinking of it, was maybe that was like the trigger. You know, that was the trigger if it was some MK Ultra thing. Brought the box of books and it triggered this thing.
But what would be the point of that?
Well, so we'll continue. So that's number 2. So it was the same as this movie. The zip code of the bookstore where they said she was last seen was British Columbia, brought it to British Columbia. She was a college student at this school in British Columbia. She was a part of the tuberculosis program. So whatever that is, I guess some kind of health program at her school. So 3 days after her death, or maybe it was 3 days after her body was found. Her body was found in the water. The reason it was put in the water tank, for 19 days it was in the water tank, and they brought these people who lived there, which you brought up, drank the water. And they were like, the water had this like brown flavor to it. It tasted nasty. So if they put her with tuberculosis, put it in the water, and she's in the water for 19 days, that whole house is infected by it. So many people are going to so many people are going to that hotel for 3 weeks in and out, where if they were just trying to get to Skid Row, I'm sure probably Skid Row people come up and use the bathrooms time and time again. But anyway, so 3 days after her body found, there was a tuberculosis breakout through Skid Row, infected like 4,500 people on Skid Row, and So that was that with the tuberculosis. Take this thing off. It's throwing me off. Bring it back to the Elisa Lam thing. So there was a big spread of tuberculosis. The biggest thing to me was this. Can you pull that up? The Elisa Lam thing we saw. The Lam Elisa. Lam Elisa tuberculosis. So there was this big tuberculosis spread, and right there. We already have it up. Lam Elisa tuberculosis. Google search.
Yeah.
So, no, we have it up over here. Over before the stats UFC. Okay. Yeah. So here. So after Lam died, a tuberculosis, that pop sugar one, the top one. No, right there. Right here. Yep. Yeah. After an outbreak, go down. Okay, no, go up to that. After Lam died, a tuberculosis outbreak plagued Los Angeles, especially among the homeless community in Skid Row by Cecil Hotel. The test for the tuberculosis was literally her name, but backwards. Lam Elisa, which stood for some Lifferman enzyme linked in her assay, Elisa. conspiracy theorists immediately speculated that Lamb was effectively a biological weapon of sorts. They discovered that she was a student from the University of British Columbia, which has a reputable tuberculosis research center. This particular theory has disturbing eugenic undertones that posits Lamb was sent to control the homeless population. According to this theory, Lamb died because she either knew too much or planned to expose whoever sent her. But according to an autopsy report, Lamb did not exhibit any signs of tuberculosis, which is fine. If this was a MK Ultra thing, they can hide that information. So anyway, these were all the little different things. Again, that's just weird when it was her name backwards was the whole thing. That's that. But anyway, so the point is, it's a great documentary. We don't really have. I guess I just.
So what do you think?
I think it's this one right here. I think it was exactly what I just read here. That's how these things happen. These are because, and here's the thing: people got to know this stuff happens. These are real. MK Ultra, if you want to pull it up, is a real thing. Mind controlled people push an agenda. This is 100% facts. So this happens. And again, and here's also the thing, just to bring this full circle, the elevator thing. So people would say they want to make it easy and say it was the bipolar thing, the medicine. Fine, that's fine. But what that doesn't make the bipolar thing doesn't make up for the Lamb Elisa thing. That's weird as hell. So, but I think that's how people in mind control act. They start acting like they're talking to somebody. It's this weird thing. And also there was this thing in the documentary where she was this Cecil Hotel is also like a college dorm, so you can sleep with 4 people in like a room. And she had to get kicked out of one of the rooms because the 3 girls said she was acting weird.
She was acting up.
She was writing notes and passing them under all the doors to different people. So again,
the thing that doesn't make sense, like, do they only have one camera? Like, is there only the camera in the elevator? How's that the only camera footage that we get?
Right. And again, these would go back to why, and that's what people think about the cop too. They said that the cops went to the roof 3 days after she died and didn't find anything. So you guys didn't look in the. I
mean, that's a weird place to look.
Sure.
And like you didn't say, but the fucking it's a metal water. What is it? Water filter? Is that what is it?
Well, that's why we knew.
And it's a she would have to go in there, shut the shit herself. Right. You know what I mean? It's a fucking. She's a 21-year-old little Asian girl.
Well, that's why we said it wasn't homicide because someone had to carry her up, and that's why not. But again. So again, if we, and just because I know I'm pushing this hard, so the flip side would be, let's say we go to the bipolar thing, right? Mm-hmm. So she has some kind of episode because she's taking a lack of her medicine to the point where she would want to go climb up the water tank, jump in and kill herself. That would be the other flip thing. So if that's doable, I guess.
I mean, people do have crazy manic episodes.
Right.
That's
what I'm saying.
Why
that's
what
more people are leaning to. Most people, because a lot of people don't want to believe this thing.
Yeah.
But again, I know the things when I see like Lamb Elisa, your name backwards. Come on, you can't play with me. And 3 days later, there's a tuberculosis outbreak where she was supposedly at the University of British Columbia in that reputable research center. I just find that hard to believe. And then again, that's things too. If the CIA did make...
So you think it was to kill off the homeless population in Skids Row and just clean up the city?
Everything's about population control. Yeah, exactly. And again, that's why things like, why wouldn't there be more cameras? If the CIA held this,
I think it's fun to play with, and Netflix knew it was fun to play with. Yeah. But I feel like she just had a crazy manic... No, I need to watch it,
So anyway, we just want to talk about this. The number 1 trending show on Netflix. Go check it out. Crime Scene. The Vanishing at the Cecil Hotel. You can't miss it. Top 10, number 1. I really enjoyed it. If you like this video, click the like and subscribe button below. And hit the little chime button.
That's perfect. That would be funny.